And so I really do believe that you are the brand. Whether you think you're a brand or not, you are the brand. Even if you have, in inverted commas, a proper job, okay, you're still the brand, because how you present yourself, the first impression that you make, how you come across is critically important. And I really urge everybody to recognize this. And I know there'll be people in the room thinking, actually, no, she's not talking to me because I work for someone else. They're the brand. It's not about me. Don't look at me. But actually, it is about you. And I want to try and encourage you to think about that today. So who can see what I have in my hand? A sticky, crumpled little dollar bill. How many of you here invest time or money in promoting and marketing your own brand? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's very impressive. Lots of you. Okay. How many of you kind of think, actually, you know what? I probably should do a little bit more to get myself out there? Or are you all perfect? Oh, a couple of you. Okay, right. Then you will have my lucky dollar. Now, it's only $1, but it's a lucky dollar. I gave it to somebody once, and they said, I got home, I put it in my little drawer where I keep my travel money, and there was 300 quid I'd forgotten about. So you just never know, do you? Okay, so you are the brand. This is what I believe, and I believe that it's really important for you to recognize both sides of your brand. So, of course, you've got to get yourself out there to your clients and your potential customers and your community and your tribe, but you also really do need to think about how you get your message out to a wider audience and let PR and media attention help you as well. This is obvious, right? People do business with those they like, know, and trust. We've all heard that. How important is that in your sector? It's critically important. So let me ask you a question. How many here go to a hairdresser? I did this talk once in a room full of bald men. They were all bald. How many go to a hairdresser? Yeah. Lots of you, right. Do you go to any hairdresser in any town? No, you don't, right? You don't. Do you? Some of the guys go, yeah. And the guy go anywhere. How many go to a dentist? Yes, at some point, if you have to, right? Any dentist, any town? No. Why? Because you go to the one you like, know, and trust. Now, sometimes there's a very specific USP, a very specific selling point as to why you go to that person. But not always. Sometimes it's just something about them, something about their energy, something about who they are makes you feel okay, makes you feel safe. And this is critically important with anything connected with children. So how you present yourself, how you connect so that people can get to like, know, and trust you, I believe is absolutely critical. So this is what I was saying about looking at both sides of your brand. This is a short presentation today, so I haven't got time to go into it at length. But I think often what people do is they spend a huge amount of time on the one side attracting their potential clients and customers, which is great, of course, but they forget all about the fact that there is a whole world out there of journalists and producers and editors who would love to hear your story because they've got column inches to fill. They've got airtime to fill, okay? And they need you, but they need you to be prepared. They need you to pitch to them. Don't just wait for someone to come to you. So we'll flick through this and look at your unique selling point. How much clarity have you got on exactly what it is that's unique about you? What's your story? Because, let's face it, whatever business you're in, you'll have competition, right? There'll be thousands of other companies doing a similar thing, possibly even in your direct area. So how do you stand out? It's because of you. It entirely comes down to why people like, know, and trust you. So let's assume just for a moment, she says, flying through this presentation, let's assume for a moment that you do have clarity on your USP, that you absolutely know what's unique about you, what's special about you, why people should come to you, what your key messages are, how you're going to present yourself, what kind of a brand you are. Why aren't you, all of you, out there in the media a lot of the time, in all the publications you want to be in, being interviewed on TV and radio, on the podcasts and all the rest of it? And I'm pointing fingers back at myself here. Why aren't we? What's holding us back? What is holding us back from being as out there as we want to be in promoting our businesses? Well, the answer is usually inner talk. Oh yes, that little voice in your head that says, don't look at me, it's not about me. Who knows who this amazing woman is? Anybody? Oh, wow, you've all got some great homework. Somebody over there. This is Louise Hay. This is your homework. Most incredible woman. She's 90 now. She didn't start her business till she was in her 60s. She's the founder of the largest mind, body, spirit publishing company in the world, Hay House, which is massively growing while a lot of other publishers are not necessarily doing so well. And she has this theory that really, life loves you and you have to love yourself. She does something called mirror work. Okay, now you're going to be fading down the mic. Off she goes, cosmic bird, off she goes. She does mirror work. I was speaking at one of her conferences and she did the keynote and she said, you need to all go in the break, you need to go to the bathrooms and you need to look in the mirror and say, I love you. It's not very British, is it? It wasn't happy in those loos, I can tell you. Because the truth of it is, when we've got an important presentation to give, if we've got to go and ask for money, go to our bank manager and ask for money. I mean, they're not maybe always as lovely as they are here. Maybe you've got to pitch for a presentation. Maybe you've got to try and speak at a networking meeting. Maybe you've got to speak to a journalist about something linked to your brand. Maybe there's something a little bit controversial going on in the news, and you know that actually this is your opportunity to speak up for the industry that you're working in. Most of us, when we actually do stand there and look in the mirror and try and get together that confidence to put ourselves out there, this is what we see. Seriously? You want me to stand in front of my bank manager? Seriously? You want me to stand in front of a group of people? What? No. Okay? Because it's this inner talk that goes on all the time, telling us, you're not good enough. It's not really about you. We'll look at somebody else. Okay? Now, I believe that confidence is something that everybody needs. If you're going to get your message out to a wider audience, if you're going to grow your business, if you're going to be successful, if you're going to get PR and media attention and more clients, you need to be confident to stand and be visible, okay? And not everybody is naturally confident. I totally get that. Not everyone is a born public speaker. But you know something? You can fake it till you make it, okay? You don't have to be confident. You just have to know a couple of tricks. So, can you all stand up for a moment? Don't panic. I'm not going to ask you to dance. I'm not going to ask you to massage the shoulders of the person in front of you. I hate that. How many of you have done conferences where you have to do that? No. So I'm not going to ask you to do that. Okay, I'm just going to ask you to stand, okay? And just for a second, no one's looking at you because we're all looking at me. I want you just to imagine that you're very sad. Just for a second, imagine you're very sad. Oh, everything's so terrible. Okay, just for a second. Right, now I can come back because that's a miserable state to be in. But what's interesting is psychologists say that it's not possible to cry standing up. It's called the cybernetic loop. It's the mind-body connection. You can't be miserable and be... Someone's actually crying standing up. That's not true. It's not actually possible to be completely miserable when you change your body shape. Yeah? Does that make sense? So let's adopt this fabulous power pose. I found this in the Tate Modern. This is Anthony Gormley. Don't worry about the hole. There's a hole in his heart. Never mind about that bit. But anyway, it's a smashing power pose. So if we just stand with just feet firmly rooted into the ground, okay, as if we're tree trunks, arms back, shoulders up, okay. And because in the style of Louise Hay, she would want me to make you do this. So don't panic, it's not massage. After three, I want you all to say, after I've counted to 3, I am enough. 1, 2, 3. I am enough. Yes, you really are. You can sit down. Now, you see, all this is doing is reminding you of all your amazing, unique brilliance. When you find your USP, I call it your unique brilliance, Y-O-U, your unique brilliance. Everything that makes up why we should work with you rather than your competitor down the road. I did a similar talk, by the way, to a group of property investors, and I got them all to do this. And then I suddenly realised they're thinking to themselves, this woman is actually barking. She wants me to go into my bank manager to ask for investment, walk in the door and go, hello, I am enough. No, you do it in the loo. You do it in the loo or before you come out. I'm not suggesting that this is your stance at all times. It's a little tip. It's a little trick to remind your brain, actually, I'm confident. I'm okay. okay, to get you through. It's called faking it till you make it. It's a little NLP tip. And there are lots of others, by the way. I don't know how many of you know about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, but it's absolutely brilliant for just stealing a couple of little tips and tricks that can really help you with confidence when you know you've got to approach somebody that any difficult situation, actually, any relationship. Great for dealing with clients as well, of course. 7 is the magic number. That's the number of times, in PR terms, that somebody needs to come across you or see something about you before you're even on their radar. That's why you need to spread your content. Of course, you need to do the social media stuff. Of course, you need to write blogs. There's a massive, massive statistic, which I don't have in front of me, but basically companies who blog have a hugely increased rate of engagement. How many people here write blogs for their business? Yeah, okay, not bad, okay. And by the way, you don't have to do it every day, and you don't have to make it long, but it's just sharing something of your story. It's an article, really. So I'd really encourage you to think about that, because it makes a huge difference. But when you've done this kind of thing 7 times, around 7 times, then you're on someone's radar. Okay, so it's really important to make sure that you're consistently getting your content out to a wider audience. I'll go back to that in just a moment, actually. I was ahead of myself there. One of the really interesting things is that people don't always realize that journalists and producers really want your content, okay? And it's really worth thinking of all the different ways you can pitch to them. But there are a few things that's really important not to do. Most journalists are hugely, hugely busy, and they absolutely don't want to receive a press release from you that just tells them about your latest product and the fact that it's, cheaper than somebody else's or whatever it is. They're not interested in that at all. In fact, journalists and producers are not interested in promoting your business. Okay, end of. They will send you over to the advertising department. And by the way, in PR terms, a piece of editorial, something written about you or something that you've written, is worth 2.5 times the cost of advertising. So it's absolutely huge. Having your content, having your messages, having your story is the absolute answer for you. How many people here have written a book to promote their business? Yeah? One or two, a few of you? Okay, cool. Well, you see, take the word author, add 3 letters, you become an authority. That's not rocket science, right? But you know what? In PR and media terms, it's really, really interesting what a difference the fact that you've written a book can make. Now, most of you are probably thinking at this point, she's actually bonkers. I haven't got time to pee, let alone write a book. Okay? But it doesn't have to be War and Peace. You can write a short book to share some of your information, your knowledge, your story. It might even just be a short ebook. But what's really interesting is when in the media we're looking for experts, if a topic has come up and you're in a newsroom and you're looking for an expert to invite in to speak, to give expert comment, if there's obviously the person on your doorstep, you're going to call them. But if there isn't, you'll start looking around and you'll probably look for authors first. Now, you won't have time to call the book in and see whether it's any good. But the fact that you've written a book, the fact that you've got to that stage, sets you apart, expert status. So I'd really encourage you to think about it. It's a really interesting one. I'll tell you a super quick story. There was a guy that I was doing some PR for, helping him promote his business. And how do I put this delicately in this room? Let's put it this way, he had a product that was an intimate feminine product. Yes, that's how I describe it. Very difficult to PR, basically. And this guy was absolutely, he had some great messages. He had lots of really good facts and figures and stories. Never met a guy before so fascinated by women's parts. But anyway, and it was a great product. And we had a great press release and a great story around it because we had a testimonial, if you like, a case study of someone who was willing to speak to the press, who felt that her sex life had been greatly improved, so she was willing to talk about that. So well, first of all, I advised him not to advertise, but he didn't listen to me on that. So I'll come back to that in a moment. So I sent this off to a contact at the Mail and sent off the press release and some information and the case study. And then they came back and said, yeah, really interested. We'll let you know. Came back a few days later. It's not quite right for the Mail. It's a bit icky. Oh, really? Right. Okay. So he was very disappointed, and he said, I'm going to advertise because it's the best way to reach new mums. So he advertised in a parenting section of a big magazine, and it cost him £5,500 against my advice. How many of his products worth £30 do you think he sold? 4. Sold 4. 4. So I said, okay, right, now you've got to listen to me. Now you're going to write a book. You've got lots of information, doesn't need to be a long book, just get it out. In the old days, you used to call it marketing materials, right? So he did. He put these facts and figures and his case studies and his information into an ebook. I think he got some printed copies as well that he sold for a very small amount of money. And I thought, I've got nothing to lose, you know. So I sent the exact same press release, same case study, same information, and a copy of the book to the same journalist. Voila, full page spread. How many of his products do you think he sold? We lost count. Yeah, we lost count. Now, what was the difference? There was no difference in the information. The difference was, in that case, from the editor's perspective or the journalist's perspective, they weren't promoting a business. They were reviewing a book. They were bringing information to their consumers that they really wanted to hear. It's all about what is it that the target client wants to hear. Okay, so now I can come to this. Now, last year, I was a fairy godmother in Panto. Thank you. I actually was. And I wish I could wave my magic wand, okay, and get you all exactly in the spotlight where you want to be. But here's the really interesting thing. Lots of clients that I work with are not clear on what they want. And I really believe that it's critically important to have clarity, not just on your USP and what's unique about you and your business, but also exactly what you want for your brand. Now, sometimes people might say, well, that's obvious. I just want to be hugely successful. Well, what does that mean? Okay, I really believe have absolute clarity on that and determine exactly what it is for you and when. And even in terms of your PR and media, it's a really good idea to decide exactly where do I want to be featured? What's the project I'm going to focus on? Which angle of my business am I going to promote first, rather than just scattergun every single bit of it? Is there a section, is there something that's topical right now that I can promote and I can give it 3 months, for example? And what's my target? Where do I want to be? Because this sounds extremely obvious, but if you actually just send off your press release or your pitch or whatever it is to, you know, whichever magazine, Juno or whatever, dear Juno, please feature me, it's not very likely to happen, is it? Whereas if you're very specific about the actual slot you want to be featured in, then that shows you've done your research and you're pitching exactly the right person. If you want to be interviewed on the radio, make sure that you're not pitching to a radio station that doesn't do interviews. I know this stuff sounds obvious, but you'll be amazed how many people do that. So really get clarity on exactly what it is you want, and then you can follow that through. So if I had more time, I would be talking you through clarity, which I've already said. Clarity is clarity on your USP and on what it is you want. Content is hugely important. Make sure you blog. Make sure you get that social media stuff out there. Make sure you have a list. If you don't already, think about growing a mailing list, because that's going to be the best way you can connect directly with your clients. The confidence, well, you've all got that now, right? I am enough. And making those connections with the journalists and recognizing that they're massively busy. And if you actually send them, if a journalist, the amount of times I meet people and I'll meet them and the next day I'll get a call from a journalist and they'll say, you don't know anyone who does children's activities, do you? Like water-based stuff? And I'll go, oh, you can't believe it, I met someone yesterday. Wow, okay, brilliant. Oh, I just need some expert comment. Great. So I ring them up and say, can you give me a few lines about whatever particular angle it is? And they'll send me 17 pages. Okay. Okay. I don't know if I've got time to edit that, but let's assume that, you know, whatever. Let's assume I've got my paragraph. Okay. We need a nice headshot of you to go with the piece. Oh, okay. I get a picture from 1987 on the beach. Have your materials ready. Okay. Get PR ready. This is so important. Make sure you've got your stuff in place before you make those connections. I'm guessing I'm out of time, but it's been really lovely to talk to you. If you want to come and give me your email, or if you want to email me, I've got a couple of little ebooks that I can send you on mistakes that small business owners make, and also I'll send you the checklist for a PR ready media kit, so you can check off, okay, have I got that sorted, have I got that sorted. And I really wish you all the best in getting your businesses out to a wider audience, and thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.